Hey there. Hi, Debbie. Debbie was the first one in the house. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Jessica. Good evening. Hey, Charlene. Ashley. Well, how y'all doing tonight? I'm Myra Naya from California. Welcome, Indian Warrior. Hey there. Thank you for joining. We've got a really great program tonight. This is going to be fun. Hey, Juju Bean. Sammy, how are you? Tonight, all the way from North Texas, we've got a very interesting person. I like to call her my friend. Met her last year while covering a particular topic that you guys know of already. The Bomb, what's up? Charles, how are you? Maricela, welcome. Nice to see you. Hey, Scarlett. And tonight we've got LinMarie Garsee in the house. Read a little short bio on her. She is a private investigator, founder and CEO of a nonprofit called Quilts for Vets. We'll talk about that later too. And an author of books and true crime stories. That's another reason why we're talking to her tonight. And also for a couple of newspapers in Texas. And she's also a freelance reporter for some publications, some news publications and papers as well. So without further ado, let's welcome LinMarie. How are you?
Hey, how are y'all doing tonight?
We are doing very well. I'm sure everyone's there. Everyone remembers you and excited. They're very excited that you were coming on, and we want to talk about it. You got a lot of stuff going on. You're a busy woman.
To say the least, right now, yeah.
Yeah,
It's peaks and valleys.
right. It happens that way. Some call it what do they call it? Peaks and valleys or ebb and flow.
There you go.
Sometimes you're right, and it happens. Everybody, it's just a part of life. So, where do we start? We want to start with we want to start with your books, or do we want to start with as you know, last it wasn't quite a couple of weeks ago we posted that you had a few unwanted visitors at your place down here in South Texas.
2 weeks ago, exactly.
Yeah, what do you want to fill us in to those who don't know what happened? Do you want to give us a little?
Uh, I had a place down there in between Harlingen and La Feria, and had left 2 days prior to that. And it seems that a young man that lived in my neighborhood that watched my comings and goings, evidently, decided that he and a couple of friends would just refurbish their home with every materialistic thing basically that I owned.
Mm.
Um, Luckily, the neighbor was able to get some photographs of two of the perpetrators. Um, as of today, according to the captain of CID, Criminal Investigations Division, there is an active warrant for his arrest. Um, I think that I've been pretty calm about it,
Yeah.
but when they use the bins that you buy and the newspapers you bring to wrap up and steal plates, everything, it kind of
Ah.
adds a little insult to injury, to say the least. But I mean, they even took toilet paper. I mean,
Toilet paper.
yeah, whole case. Yeah,
Yeesh.
I guess that's what can I say? Hi, Debbie. Um, anyway, you just, I mean, toothbrushes, extra toothbrushes, because when I would come down, a lot of times one of my friends would come or whatever, and someone forgets a toothbrush or whatever. And so I always kept extra toothbrushes and extra this and that. And,
Hmm.
um, I always tried to have extra like shampoos. So they took all the shampoos. It's just amazing. I mean, just, I can laugh about it now. I was in shock for a good while. Um, I was leery that Cameron County Sheriff's Office would not be doing their job. So I furnished roughly,
Yeah, how have they responded? I know you showed me a
ooh,
little bit of a letter that you sent them expressing your displeasure with the investigation.
well, I got Trump for an ag robbery, but it's like I told them in my email to them and to the sheriff. Um, I've been a private investigator for close to 30 years. And I know that if someone is not um, corralled or arrested, that or
Mhm.
something isn't done within 72 hours, the apt of being able to get your belongings back is very slim to none.
Right.
And especially whenever I furnish photos of the perpetrators, a lot of photos of actual items that were missing in my home. I furnished a 3+ page inventory list. Um, and to be told that we've not done anything yet, um,
Yeah.
I did ask, what more could I do to make his job even easier?
And you gave an inventory. I mean, we're not talking about a few $100 or even a couple thousand. I mean, you had a substantial.
Over
It was a
60,000.
$60,000, over $60,000.
Hmm. And for Cameron County Sheriff's Office detective to sit on his butt with photos and everything, I didn't take too kindly to it. And as I told him, he would hear from me very often, daily. I want to know. I will not go
Yeah,
away.
yeah, because we did post the photos of that your neighbor took, right?
Yes, correct.
Of a couple of the perpetrators and the vehicles they were driving, and
Correct.
even one photo showing all that particle board that they took with, or
Well, it
that
wasn't particle
plywood.
board. It was hardy plank paneling, like
Oh, I see.
70 something dollars a board. Because see,
Oof.
I had been collecting, I planned to add on to my trailer. So as I got maybe 1,000 here or a couple of thousand, I would go buy materials to stockpile for my add-on so that it didn't hit me all at once.
Hmm.
And so building materials, I mean, they had hog heaven. I'll bet their eyes rolled back in their heads.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Hopefully they'll do something. I know you got a response recently, right? You did get a response from that
I did.
finally.
I did. I got a response from the captain, told me that they were in the process of getting an arrest warrant for the suspect. And I responded, that's great, but I want it today.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll move on that quick. You gave them evidence gift wrapped, so hopefully they can
I
move
don't
on
know
that.
of any detective that would have sat on this kind of information as long as they did. And it's like I told them, I had a teenage punky, break in, that took petty things back in 2019 and nothing got done. It was all swept under the rug. And I told them that I've had too much damage this time. It will not get swept under the rug. I will be a thorn in their side.
Oh, good. Hopefully they'll get back to you in a day or so with some good news on that, and then you can start to get into that process. So now, usually, you're the person on the outside investigating for other people,
Hmm.
but now you find yourself in the middle of this where something was done against you, and
You know, and in all honesty, that gives me a really big perspective. I have always, and even whenever I've investigated for the defense, I have always considered the feelings of the victim. Um, I always tried to be fair and and cordial.
Yeah.
Even after courts, especially if there's a murder or a rape, I would go to the family and tell them that I was sorry for what took place and that I wished them well.
Yes. So in your business, you've come across well, you've been involved in a lot of cases, and then that ultimately led you to think, maybe I should write a book.
One or two.
Yeah. So what was your first book?
It was a children's book. It was about kittens. All of my
That's the one
children's
called
books have
the
morals.
four little kittens, right?
Yeah. Um, all of the children's books have morals to them. The Four Little Kittens was about being adopted, even though you may not have the same mom and dad, but it's okay because uh, the lady that's going to make sure that you're adopted into a good family.
Yeah. So you were on children, and when did you start writing? When did you write that book?
Um, Gosh, I think about maybe 11 years ago, 12 years ago, 10,
Okay.
something like
And
that.
then there was another children's book. Is that what you did back to back, or did you do something else in between that?
Um, I have I did three more. The next one would be Annabelle's Vacation,
Yeah.
and that's talking about being considerate to your grandparents, and that same name has different meanings. As a quilter, if I said I need to go buy a cake, you would think that we were going to the bakery. But to a quilter, a cake is a 10 by 10 square.
Oh, a 10 by
Or I
10
would
square.
say, I need to go buy a jelly roll.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's like probably 30 strips of 2.5 inch strips of fabric bundled together. Whereas you would think that we were going to a bakery again
Yeah.
to buy a jelly roll. So that's where same name has different meanings.
Interesting. And then, okay, so you got the children's books. When do you write your first crime story book?
That would have been, gosh, shortly after uh, 2011.
And you've got, and I didn't see them, and we'll tell you guys where to find them on there. You can get your books on Amazon, at Amazon,
But
or
yeah,
if you order directly with LinMarie, she'll actually sign it for you before she sends it out. Now, some of the books I couldn't find on
which one?
Amazon. I think I was looking for a couple of ones that you. Oh, the Trials of Chambers County. That one I couldn't find. Looks just like that. Trials of Chambers County. And then I guess you know what? Why don't we fast forward? What's your latest book? This is your latest production,
Yeah,
and that's
it's
only been out literally for what, a couple of weeks already.
yes, and it's already climbed over 4,000 sales.
Very nice.
So I was very, very shocked. It's my first fiction. Normally, I write the true crime because I'm planning on retiring. And so, what I've been doing is taking the counties and writing 3 to 5 of the larger stories from each county, basically
Mm,
purging my brain so
mm,
that when I retire, I don't, it's not clogged up with all crime and blood, guts, and gore.
yeah.
And then, of course, writing my World War II veterans that I've met through Quilts for Vets has just been just a phenomenal. I mean, it really makes you closer to the veteran and everything else. But The Spy and the Cowboy.
There it is, the Spy and the Cowboy. I'm going to put up that photo up here in just a second. This one from our video. That is the book right there. And yeah, tell us about that book. What do people expect when they grab a copy of that?
Um, it takes place. It starts at the NFR National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas, and the spy um, meets up with her cowboy. but then has to go off and do jobs for the agency. Kate, I'm self-published.
Yeah, she self-publishes through Amazon. Okay.
But I've been very excited about The Spy and The Cowboy. Every response that I've gotten wants to know if there's a sequel. I can't say yes and I won't say no. It's just going to depend, because right now I have two real serious World War II books that I'm trying to get done. One, Mr. Howard served under General Patton, and the other is going to be about three World War II Black gentlemen and the prejudicisms that they went through with integration, segregation, and what they did in the military and how they were treated when they came back. And those are very important books to me.
Yeah. Now you said if they order those through you, some of those are signed by those some veterans.
Yes, all of them are signed except for My Longest Walk. Unfortunately, let's see that one. Unfortunately, Mr. Marino passed away shortly after his book came out.
Oh.
And we didn't get any extra copies signed. But My Longest Walk, just briefly, Mr. Marino was part of the Mars task force that walked over 279 miles across the Himalayan mountains, taking up where Merrill's Marauders left off to take out the airstrip from Japan there in Burma. And it talks about the perils that he went through and what he and his group did, and how hard it was. And unfortunately, one of the things that he mentions in this, and I am trying to get this done, I have contacted several congressmen. Merrill's Marauders were given the Congressional Medal of Honor, but they didn't finish their task. It was the Mars Task Force that went in and finished their task, and they've never been granted that Congressional Medal of Honor.
Oh, wow. Hopefully they will. Even, what do they call that? Posthumous?
Posthumously, yes.
Yeah, hopefully they will. And then somebody asked, and I know we're not going to get into this too much, but I've been asked many, many times, that's to talk about, are you going to talk about the Melissa Lucio case? And they asked that because you were involved in that case, and they saw you on the documentary.
Sure.
And some of the people who are viewers we have now didn't get to see you when you were on, when we talked about this last year. But
right,
the thing is, well, I'll let you say it.
Melissa has a hearing coming up in April, and at this time, I am not discussing anything regarding her case. Right. I would not want to tick somebody off to where they change their mind of what they're going to do, or I would not want to do anything that would cause any issues for Melissa's case.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything or say anything that will compromise the current what the DA is thinking about doing anyway.
But the only thing I will say is I will go to my grave saying that Melissa is innocent and that Alexandria needs to be brought to justice. Now that I will say until my dying day.
And for those of you who want to catch up on that, I will do a follow-up. I'm going to wait until I know you want me to wait till April. I'm going to try.
Well, no, you're going to have to wait longer than that, because the hearing will be in April, but it won't be ruled on for probably 3 to 8 months.
Oh, goodness. In that case, we probably will have a kind of a refresher for those of you who don't know what the situation was with the Melissa Lucio case. We'll just go lightly into that with that. Yeah, and watch the documentary. It's on Hulu. It's called The State of Texas versus Melissa. And you can catch up with that there, and you can catch up with my previous. We had many discussions on Melissa Lucio with LinMarie, with the producer of the documentary, Was it Sabrina, right? Sabrina
Yes, Von Tassel.
Von Tassel, that's right. And many others have chimed in on that situation. So if you have Hulu, or if you can grab it and you want to look at a good documentary, check out The State of Texas versus Melissa, and then we'll follow up with that on a later time.
Yeah, and Amazon even has it on there. You can get it through Amazon too.
Yes, that's correct. I know it was on somewhere else. I think are they still doing it? Well, I don't know. I'll let everybody know. But there used to be that if you had a library card, you can go to the library and watch it for free as well.
Yeah, someone else
your
told me that.
Now, I wanted, okay, so some of the stuff that you wrote books on are actual cases that you were involved with. Is that correct?
Yes.
You mentioned one earlier. Let's see if I got it down here. It's a book that you have. It's called Justice for Lorinda.
Mm-hmm.
And that is local to the people here who live in South Texas.
Yes,
the Harlingen
in
area.
Harlingen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was that story?
Tony Gonzalez had Lorinda believing that he was a doctor, and that because he wore a lab coat to work, and she got pregnant, and he talked her into an abortion, and so he stole the ether from the hospital, and he met her at Motel 6, and used the ether to put her under. He thought he killed her after he had done a botched abortion. And so he sat there in a chair and smoked a couple of joints, put the place on fire. And there's a lot more juice to it, but it is called Justice for Lorinda. I assisted him in getting out on parole. He had contacted me through another person that I helped on parole. And after he got out, just very sexual perverted. And so I wrote the book as an insurance policy for me. Every one of the parole officers in Beaumont got copies of it. They all knew the history because he took a plea deal for an arson case versus a capital murder. And so I wanted to make certain that I had basically an insurance policy, and that if anything happened to me, that they would know exactly who to come see. And it worked.
Whoa, very interesting. When was that? When did that case happen? When did that murder?
That would have been in the 90s. For killing her and the baby, he took 40 years on an arson, and he only served 16, I believe.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh man, so he's already been out for a
Yeah, and karma is a real doozy sometimes. And about 4 years ago, Tony passed away from a bad bout of cancer.
And what's his full name?
It's Antonio Gonzalez, or Anthony. Yeah, Anthony Gonzalez.
For those who like looking up old crime stories and that kind of thing, look up Tony Gonzalez and Lorinda. Do you know Lorinda's last name?
Rivas.
Lorinda Rivas, Rivas, and LinMarie's book on that.
I think that you can Google murder at Motel 6, and of course, Motel 6 is gone now. Okay, if you're coming south on 77 and you take 83 to the right towards McAllen,
Yeah.
well, that right in that area is where Motel 6 used to be.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, there is stuff on there. Definitely look that up. So what I want to ask you, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, and we'll get to. Well, no, let me just ask you this first. Which is your favorite book? What did you enjoy writing the most?
I I can't say that there was any one. I mean, I have to be honest that the newest one, The Spy and the Cowboy, was kind of fun, but every one of them holds a different meaning to me. They all have I have a personal connection with every one of them.
Mm.
Like even the quilt show, the Annabelle's Vacation. When we were doing quilt shows, a Mountain Quilt Fest was one of the shows that we went to. So we talked about Pigeon Forge and Dolly World and things like that.
Mm.
The Spy and the Cowboy, you will read about places that I've been, possibly something that I might have been involved in.
That is so cool. Now, I wanted to ask you about, okay, let's talk
Irma,
about,
yes, the guy, and Tony Gonzalez has passed away.
and the victim's name was Lorinda. Lorinda, just like the way it sounds, Lorinda, Rivas, Rivs. Tell me about Happy Birthday, Robert.
Ooh, baby. I recently gave copies to a couple of judges, and they said that had they known the true story of her, that they probably would have been a lot more sympathetic. And my response was, we tried to get that in, and you
Yeah.
denied it. It's about 3 70-year-olds. It was the gal decided to bring her paramour, her lover, to her house and told the husband that he was going to babysit the kids for the weekend. The kids being her 2 grandchildren that they adopted so that they could get extra Social Security money.
Mm.
And he ends up shooting the boyfriend, and he kills the boyfriend, and he shoots her. But she has such a tangled web. I mean, you want to talk about Charlotte's Web? It has nothing on this gal.
And that one is, do you have a copy of that there by any chance?
Yeah. Let's see.
To your left here. There you go. Happy Birthday, Robert. And it says a Texas love triangle. Oh boy. Yeah, there's drama in Texas all over the place.
You know,
And
it's
then-
just it just never ceases to amaze me that people think they're going to get by with things, and it just I mean, she lied her tail off in court. And unfortunately, she was smart enough to have covered it up that even her best friends didn't know about a lot of it.
Mm. So the other book I wanted to ask you about, and I know this is a book about something, a very serious topic, from cotton fields to battles at sea.
Yes, this is a World War II book. Horace Hamilton had worked cotton fields as a child. He grew up very, very poor, as most did. He joined the Navy for food, for shelter, for clothing. And he was there the day that Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Oh, I see.
And so that tells his story completely. He said that that they were out on the deck that morning and had just had chow. And he said he saw this plane come across, and he saw the first bomb drop. And he said, man, someone's in a shitload of trouble now, because they had flour sacks. And the flour sacks were painted different colors for the different weights. And what he thought is that someone had inadvertently put a real bomb in place of the flour sack. And he said that the plane came and it came back around towards him. And when he did, that's when he saw the sun on the tail wing.
Yeah, that's when he said he knew something was not right. So you have been through a lot. You've you've been involved with many as a private investigator, many cases, and obviously, which we just said, it caused you to want to write about it. What is your most memorable court case that you were involved with?
Wow. That's kind of a loaded question.
I'm not saying your favorite, but maybe something that hit
Um,
you.
the I-45 murders, that was during the late 70s and 80s. There were multiple women up and down I-45 from Houston to Galveston, excuse me, that came up missing. And Kevin Edison Smith basically kidnapped one of those girls out of Texas City and took her to Chambers County. And in fact, his story is in Trials of Chambers County. And just having to deal with Quanell X and his pesky self, and the lies that I listened to and knew that they were lies. She was 14 years old, was sexually assaulted, had a tool belt tied around her neck, and she was choked to death.
Ugh. Now, when you're involved with something like that, it's got to be difficult. I mean, to say the least.
Mavaye, I am working on Harris County stories. I probably have 6 stories that are going to be in Harris County. In fact, one of them we just finished up the same week that I got burglarized. He was from South Africa. His mother was a voodoo priestess. And it was very difficult working with her and him. And he wanted to play stupid on us. He was very smart. He knew multiple languages, self-taught himself Spanish so that he could play soccer with the Spanish guys. That morning, he went to do a hit, a robbery. And unfortunately, the gentleman that he robbed, well, at first he shot him in the leg, and the guy chased him. And whenever the guy started chasing him, he turns around and shoots him multiple times and then robs him with his watch and whatever else was in his pockets.
Oh, my goodness. I can imagine that. I don't want to get into that Melissa Lucio case.
Well, this guy was lucky because it started out a death penalty case. And it was my mitigation paper, or like 40 pages worth, that got the death penalty off the table. And so he was in jail for like 5 years, something like that. And so we picked a jury, and that was a whole damn fiasco there. And I do want to talk about that. But the next day he decided that he had a come to Jesus realization, and he'd take 35. And so then it was a tit for tat. And so he ends up taking 45.
Yeah.
And but jury selection. And I'm going to say this for anybody that gets a jury summons. When that judge and that prosecutor and that defense attorney tells you don't be investigating or looking anything up about this case, that's what they mean.
Yeah.
We started out with 66 jurors. We struck 33 for cause. Cause meaning age, medical, parents with children under 12, or whatever the cause was.
Yeah.
So that leaves us 33. Each side gets 12 strikes. In other words, we don't like this one, we don't like this one, we don't like this one. But because we were down to a narrow few, the two sides could agree that you would only do 10 strikes. So by the time we did the 10 strikes each, we were down to 13 jurors.
Oh boy.
One of them, we just said, we're striking this one, like it or not. So now we're down to 13. So we sit the 12 and we have the one alternate. After they take their little oath, one of the dudes in the back row raises his hand and said, "Judge, I think I need to tell you something. I work for the Houston Chronicle and I know about this case." And everybody just sucked air. It had taken us, we started at 10 that morning and we were still there at 8 o'clock that night.
Why did he say something earlier?
That was the whole point. I mean, so then we lose. Well, the prosecutor asks him, he says, well, can you be a fair and impartial juror? He goes, no, he's guilty. He goes, what would you give him? He goes, life without parole. And I think that also helped our fellow make his decision I might want to take a plea deal. So we knock him out, and then that puts us with our one alternate. Mm-hmm. So we get to court the next morning. I'm usually first there. That way, if there's any issues, I can let the attorneys know. And the bailiff says, we have 2 issues. I said, well, I hope they're prosecutorial. He goes, one of each. Mm. One of the ladies has decided that it's too cold and too rainy and she doesn't want to come for jury duty. I said, y'all got a police car? And he says, yes. I said, well, then bust your butt right on out there and get it. I said, because she going to come. I said, now I'm not going to support her and I'm not going to show for her. I said, it don't say Uber outside my car. But I said, so anyway, they're on the phone with her and she finally decides about the time that a police car pulls up that she could drive. So she shows up. And that's whenever they're starting to do the tit for tat with the plea deal. So,
oh man,
that.
Could they do that? Is that permissible to have a bailiff go and pick him up and bring him? Really?
Oh yes. You gave an oath that you're going to be there. Unless you are dying, you coming.
Dang. Interesting. I thought, I mean, and if you give an oath that you're going to be there and you are selected, I mean, I don't know what the penalty is.
There. You gave an oath that you would be there. So those are some little, I'm telling you, I would have given anything for something to settle my stomach. My stomach felt like that it had steel-toe boots and a pair of bricks inside of a dryer. It was just rumbling so bad. But it was, woo. That's nerve-wracking.
Oh, I bet.
Because it could have meant that we had to start all over.
Yeah. So one question I have for you is, what is your stance on the death penalty?
I believe that the death penalty is designed for certain instances. I do believe that just like a rabid dog has to be put down, sometimes you have to do that. But I do believe that a lot of these who are on death row are, they can be refurbished, for lack of a better word. I think that they could be in general population earning their keep. I believe that they are salvageable. And I do believe that it's for the worst of the worst of the worst. And I'm fortunate enough that I have 4 on death row. One, I would say probably, you're where you need to be. But the others, I firmly believe without a doubt that that they are salvageable.
But if it's one of those I am pro death penalty, but I'm like they say, it's got to be ironclad. Yes, with 1,000%. He did it. She did it.
Well, let's look
And
at, you know, there are so many who have gotten off of death row and been exonerated
yeah,
because the state withheld exculpatory evidence. The state withheld or coerced a witness to lie. The state withheld DNA. I mean, just look in the last few years at those who have been exonerated. Um, it's so unless I had a guy, Mac Williams, and I worked part of his appeal, and I always said that he was innocent. He was accused of setting a fire that killed his wife and children. And after he was executed, evidence came out through state fire marshal
oh,
that it was an accident. So when I look at those kind of cases,
yeah,
and I think, how can we execute when there's a flawed system? I look at Melissa. How can we execute when there's a flawed system?
yeah. See, and I believe that also, but I don't know if it's still currently, the way China's system used to be, where they found you guilty if it was a capital offense. I mean, within 2 weeks, execution's done and
That's
over
right.
with. Now, I don't know if it's like that anymore. And I'm okay with that as long as it's 1,000% sure, without a doubt. There's too many cases we see that poor guy in prison for 20 or 25 years, and it turns out, oh, he's innocent.
Well, there
And
was just a black gentleman, I think, in Georgia that had done 38 years on a life sentence. And the woman that accused him of sexually raping her um, changed her mind afterwards. And finally, on someone's deathbed, they confessed to what he was in there for. Can you imagine trying to give someone back 38 years of your life?
oh my goodness. And I know, lawsuits follow, or the state says, well, we owe you some money. You were wrongfully convicted. But it seems like it's not, I don't know how much money would, it seems like money is one thing, but all that time lost, your life just, it's gone. That section of your life is gone.
Okay, let's think about it too. Think of how electronics and that type of thing has changed in the last 5 years. Can you imagine 38 years ago when you went in, there weren't cell phones, there were very few computers,
Yeah.
not to mention ethics, not to mention church going, clothes, how people dressed,
Yeah.
mannerisms. Can you imagine all of the changes that has taken place in that man's life? Not to mention the deaths, the births, the weddings, the funerals.
Yeah. Life continues.
Yes, for us.
Yeah. And and you're right. Somebody goes to prison, let's say 30 years ago or more, 35 years ago, and there's no cell phones, there's no internet, things like
No,
that. And then he comes
mm-mm.
out to a totally different, almost a George Jetson kind of a world.
Correct. They're looking at, hey, where's the telephone on the wall, so I can dial that
Yeah.
rotary number. And now it's all push button. It's
And
all,
then
oh,
you
and
tell them,
even
oh,
with, yeah,
this has a phone, TV, calculator, radio, encyclopedia, world, anything in the world, in the universe you want to know, it's right here.
yeah, but even think about cars. 35 years ago, I mean, I could work on a car then. I mean, I knew how to change out my own spark plugs and things like that. You know, change my air filters but now everything's computerized on a car. You can't just go out and work on an engine.
Yeah.
You know,
Except for
it's
the very basic items like maybe
I'll
oil
have to tell you
changes
a
and
funny one of the prolees that I sponsored, the first time that he got a car and he went to get gas and he calls me and goes, Miss Garsee, I can't get that little gas thing to open. And I said, did you pull the button? He goes, what button? I said, okay, go there by your seat, the driver's seat, and look down on the very floorboard and see if there's not a lever that you pull up and it pops open. He goes, I'd have never found it. And I said, so what color handle? He goes, well, I got the green one. I said, oh no. I said,
no,
that's
no.
I said, no. You use the black handle and you put it on the 87. So that's how things had changed for him. And he was
Yeah.
only in for 17 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Life goes on, and time is something you can't get back.
No.
And I know they try to throw money at it, and obviously it helps, but it's just, yeah, it's horrible. And I do get that. But I just feel that there's a certain kind of person that is just, I don't know. I hate to say naturally evil, but somebody who's inherently evil. And I think the world is better off without certain kinds of people. And obviously you have to wait until a crime is committed to you so you can find out how evil they are.
We were talking about the news reporters in Florida, that were shot. The 3 that got shot there.
Yeah, that just happened today. There was a reporter with a cameraman, and I think one other person. They were there to follow up on a story of a murder, I think. And then they were looking for a perpetrator. Well, while they were there doing their story, yeah, the perp came back, took a few shots at the reporters, killed the reporter, and then he went into a house nearby, and that's where he shot a mother and her child. A 9-year-old girl died. And that just happened this afternoon, a big old mess over there. What do you think all this horrible crimes that are happening all over the country?
Well, I can tell you in Waller County that our crime has exponentially just blown up. I think that I will say that COVID did us more damage than just shutting businesses down. It made people lazy. It made people where they didn't want to get out and find a job. And it was easier to take or to steal or to rob or whatever than ever before.
Yeah.
And I think that as times get harder, gas prices go up, food goes up, there's going to be more and more burglaries and robberies and shootings and killings.
Yeah. And the fact that some communities, and I know this is always a hot topic, decided that the world would be better if we defunded police departments and cut back on police and policing, you should say. Do you think that's got something to do with this as well?
No, I think that's hogwash.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Police officers are becoming far and few in between simply because they're not respected anymore. I mean, I'm a little older than you, but in my time, it was Officer Bill. Mm-hmm. And Officer Bill would walk his beat, and he knew every child on the block. He spoke with everybody. He was kind and considerate, and everybody knew who their officer was.
Yeah.
And he was considered yes, sir, no, sir. we don't have that respect for police officers anymore. Very few. And I'll be frank, I don't have a lot of respect for the investigator that sat on my case down there. I mean, when you get a lazy person, it makes everybody look lazy. And so, but police officers, you don't hear a child say anymore, I want to be a police officer. You hear them say, I want to be a fireman, but you don't hear them say, I want to be a police officer.
Yeah.
And I think that we're losing good police officers over lazy police officers and bad cops. I have a lot of respect for a police officer. I will back the blue 100%. But when I find that you're being lazy or you're being dirty, I guarantee you, I'm going to be a thorn in your side.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of. I personally believe that defunding police departments and cutting budgets back coincided with a lack of respect to the police of all these bad cops, the ones that are bad, who commit these crimes against criminals that are already in custody that keep happening. For example, George Floyd and things like that happen that give police a bad name, and then you've got the activists and you got the people making loud noises that all cops are bad, and then all of a sudden there's a general consensus that, oh man, police are corrupt and police are no good. Now all the cops are getting a bad rap. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they don't get respect anymore. I remember when I was a kid in my school, it was officer friendly. I know that term gets kind of thrown around when you joking about a police officer, but that was an actual guy. His name was Officer Friendly. He'd come visit the school, and we all wanted to be police officers and wear the uniform and the hat. And he was a clean-shaven, clean-cut guy, and everybody wanted to be a cop. And now now they're like an endangered species. Nobody wants to be a police officer anymore, because being a police officer now means you become a target.
Oh, absolutely. They walk the minute they put on that uniform, they have a target on them.
Yeah. And
that's the sad thing. But I do believe that crime is going to be on the increase. Someone made the jokingly comment to me, but I thought, well, it's really true. I've got more cases right now at one given time than what I've had in the past. I've got like 53 cases, I think, and they're all murder, aggravated sexual assault, or capital murders. Mm-hmm. Because that's one thing that I haven't from day one. I've never taken a burglary case because I'm biased, and now I'm really biased after my little ordeal down there.
I bet, yeah.
And it's like I told the cop, I've not even cussed the dudes yet. So, I'm trying to stay on that professional level, but that just, no, I will never take a burglary case.
What is your take on, I know one thing that's been happening lately, especially in Harris County up there in the Houston area, where they are giving $1 bonds.
Oh, that's hogwash. I mean, all they're doing is put the criminal right back on the street. All they're doing is giving that criminal another chance to commit another crime, to kill somebody else, to hurt somebody else.
Yeah, and many times, those who watch the news a lot, and I post a lot of things, we see it all the time. Oh, he was just released last week on bond, and he was just released, and now
I have a case right now that it's a capital case, that our guy was on bond with an ankle monitor when he allegedly killed another person. He was on bond for murder, and another criminal act and another criminal act and had the monitor on when he committed this murder and robbery.
Ugh. See, and that's all politics.
I think it is. I think a lot of it is, yes.
And it's sad because I don't know, what is it going to take? At what point is somebody going to go, whoa, stop, hold on. This is way off the rails already. And, I don't.
I'll be frank with me. I would like to see a system devised that, okay, if it's a murder, just, plain Jane murder. I know that sounds tacky, but plain Jane murder, then you get $100,000 bond. If it's a murder with a theft, then that's a capital. You're going to get a $500,000 bond. In other words, set a set amount for a bond depending on what the crime is. But the thing is that in doing that, your indigent defendants, which are the majority, they are going to sit in jail eating up county money with meals, housing, medication until they get to trial.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword, so to speak. But it's just Mivali, yes, his was being monitored, and that's how they were able to find him. The ones in Harris County and Jefferson County and Waller County, they are very new, they are very strong, and they're very stringent about following them.
Yeah, see, and you're right. And because of that, you got no choice but it's kind of like a catch and release, It's unless it's something extremely violent where, we're going to keep him locked up. They're like, well, you know what? We're going to let you go, and we'll let you know in 6 months when your court date is.
See, I wish it was 6 months. This one person has been in there for almost 7 years. But of course, we had COVID, and we had this, and we had that, and there was lots of, the state is so backed up on the DNA and the lab works that throws cases off. So everything has everybody has to do their job to be able to keep things flowing. But, we're very diligent about, no matter if the state does the DNA or the lab work, we are entitled to double check that work. We're entitled to make sure that that work is done properly, professionally, and we have an independent evaluation. So it takes time to do those things. It takes time to, one of my cases right now, I have 63 witnesses that have to be interviewed. And some of them will have to be interviewed multiple times. So look how long that will take. Yeah. There's a lot of variables that go into how long it takes to get a case to trial.
Yeah, and then COVID, you mentioned COVID. And in many ways, COVID messed up. I don't know if it was COVID, but I think it was our government's reaction to COVID is what really messed things up. Oh. I think so.
I do too. Now that Pfizer's finally coming out and saying, that vaccine might not have been so good.
Yeah.
That vaccine might really not have had what we think that it might have had.
Yeah.
I was skeptical from the get-go about all that mess, but COVID did, my Quilts for Vets group a huge favor, because instead of us just sitting back and doing nothing, we made quilts. Yeah. And fortunate enough, at the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, we were able to take 179 quilts to Pearl Harbor and gave to World War II veterans. So
Yes.
for us, it was a blessing that we didn't even realize.
I was going to mention this is a good segue to start to switch over to the next topic of your quilts for vets. Tell us about your quilts and how did that come about?
My dad basically got us started. My brother and I would take him to the VA hospital in Houston, and he had me give away one of my own quilts that I had been working on. Um, and so every time we would go, we would try to have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever quilts, that we could possibly get. And one time my dad said, well, he said, if we could bring 8 quilts when I come back in 8 weeks. And I said, Daddy, I said, that's a lot of work. He goes, well, you got friends, call them. So I did. And my friends have been from Becky Wilcox and Lisa Ayers and Cheryl Minar and Joyce Keebler and Julie Rouse. I mean, my friends, and these are like elementary, junior high, and high school friends that we've all kept in contact with. I cannot thank them enough for, stepping up to the plate, because what we do is we make the quilts and we give them to World War II veterans. That was my daddy's request. You start at the top, and he goes, it doesn't take away from any veteran. You always respect them, but you start at the top and you work your way down. And I have been so tremendously blessed. I met Brigadier General Charles McGee with the Tuskegee Airmen, and I called him BJ or BG, and because I said, I just can't keep saying Brigadier General McGee. I said, that's just too many words for me. So I said, I'm going to narrow it down to BG. And we shared the same birth date. For 4 years, we were able to have our birthday dinners together. And then, of course, last year he passed. And but I learned a tremendous amount from him. And then we just recently gave another Tuskegee Airman a quilt last week. And it's just, like I said, 3 of these books, fixing to be 4 and 5 of these books, are the stories of these World War II veterans. Sometimes they share their stories with us that their families didn't even know about, because, I start talking about, the history that I know as a history buff. And so it opens up the doors for them. It's jokingly, I asked a Navy guy, I said, did you go ashore with $2 bills? And he goes, who told you about the $2 bills? And I smiled and I said, well, I kind of get around. I said, some folks aren't too shy about telling me about them $2 bills. And for curiosity's sake, the ships would pay the Navy guys in $2 bills because that was what the cost of a hooker was. And you would know it was a hooker because she had her little bamboo mat rolled up underneath her arm. And so that was the laugh about the $2 bills.
Wow, so just ready for work. Ready for work. Just drop,
Yeah, right. Hit the next palm tree. But the thing is that you just you have to know these things for them to open doors.
Yeah.
Now,
how many?
Some of the veterans, they want to talk about it, but I've learned that the ones that saw the worst of the worst, you have to peel that onion back one layer at a time.
Yeah. Just be gentle and kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Get them to just open up. I know that can be tough.
Exactly. So
Wow.
I'm enjoying writing their stories, their autobiographies. I'm anxious to write the next two. In fact, I go in March to see Mr. Howard, who will be 99, and then I go in April. I'm going to a birthday party for one of my guys. He'll be 104. Yeah, he'll be 104 the first part of April. So I'm going
Wow.
to his birthday party, and then I'm going to go see Mr. Spokes, and he just turned 100 and wants to take me to dinner. And I said, well, that'd be fine. He goes, well, I
Oh.
can drive. I said, I tell you what, if we're going to dinner, I think I'll do the driving that night. I said, you can be the Uber. He goes, you don't trust my driving? I said, well, it's not that. I said, but I want to make it back to Texas. So, so we laughed about that.
That's funny. So, how many quilts do you make? Do you do them? You have a plan to do so many a month, or do you do them as
Um,
needed? How does that work?
we each tried to make at least 5 a month. Sometimes we exceed that. Sometimes we don't make it. Um, it just depends on what our work schedules are, because a lot of us still work. Um, it depends on my trials and my job um, and things like that. We've given over 3,000 away in the last 7 years, and we've given 8 Tuskegee Airmen their quilts. Tuskegee Airmen are getting further and further and fewer in between.
Yeah.
And so it's we tried to find we're giving 15 out in March. I know that. We've already lined everything up, so we've got 15 coming for that.
And the quilts, they use them. Many of them are not very mobile, so they're in their chair, in their wheelchair, in their recliner, and then they use these just to
Lap
drape over their
quilts.
lap and stay warm, right?
Well, they do. And then the ultimate gratification that we have is that the family will use these at their funerals to go on a table that they would put the photos of, his military photos on. And
Mm.
that's the ultimate gratification that Quilts for Vets gets, is that we went with him to the very end.
Oh, that is so cool. LinMarie, and we just passed an hour here. Great discussion. Everybody loves having you, loves listening to you. And man, if I hit you up for every story you've got, we could be here for hours and hours until the morning.
We
Until
did.
we could, and maybe one night we will do that. I wanted to
Well,
post
my
a
4
couple of
o'clock comes early in the morning.
yeah, well, not tonight, definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, she said, I'm going to school to be a juvenile probation officer, but I also want to do PI, maybe even do parole later on. Do you recommend that? Oh, well, I'm going to law school to be an attorney for domestic violence and abused children.
Well, you need to decide what you're going to do, because you can't wear a bunch of hats and be effective. And if you're going to be a PI, I strongly suggest that you know the law. One of the things that my mentor got me doing is that every Wednesday morning, the Court of Criminal Appeals in the state of Texas issues a hand down list. It's basically their ruling on appeals that have been filed,
Mm.
and you learn the law. You must learn the law to be a PI. It's jokingly been said by several judges that LinMarie is really an attorney. She just doesn't have a bar card, because I do assist the attorneys during trial about case law and things like that. I think that you need to make your mind up as to what you want to do so that you can be the most effective possible.
Yes, great advice. Kate says, Manny, can I ask this lady, does she get haunted by her immense knowledge? You've got
um,
you've got so much information and experience in that head of yours, in that body of yours. Speaking of haunting, is there anything that does come back to haunt you, or any a bad experience, or
no.
maybe a bad case that?
I compartmentalize things a lot.
Hmm.
And that's why I have begun the writing the way I have. Um, To answer your question, I only sleep 3 to 5 hours a night normally, 6 on a good day, but I've been that way all my life. Excuse me. And so I'm, I guess, hyper. And so I try to utilize and I maximize all of my time to make sure that everything that needs done gets done.
Hmm. And one more here. Minnie says, "Are you going to write a book of cases out of Richmond, Texas?" Richmond is just outside of Houston,
Yeah, it's Fort Bend County.
Fort Bend County. Yeah.
Yeah, we already have. That's where the Happy Birthday Robert is out of Fort Bend County, Minnie. And yes, I will be writing Trials of Fort Bend County as well because I've had multiple. And in fact, oh, I got to tell you, just got a case. Well, I've had the case for several years. And today, our guy was involved in a really, really bad accident and it killed two of his best friends.
Hmm.
Our guy has severe, severe brain damage. Um, and he has a guardian. And today we had the final of the sentencing hearing, and God bless this judge. He gave him 10 years adjudicated probation, and I, I just, I cried. That was one of
Hmm.
those that it should have never gone that far. It was an accident, bottom line, but I thank God over and over that that boy's going to get to go home.
Yeah, that is something. Now, for those of you who want to pick up one or some of her books, I did post it to my page at Manny Behind the Mic. A link to the Amazon page with it's got almost all her books on there. And if you do want a signed copy, you'd have to contact her directly, and she will actually sign a copy for you.
You know, they
And
could go to my Facebook page, author LinMarie Garsee or LinMarie Garsee author. I forgot how it is, and can contact me that way if they want signed copies, and we can work it out that way.
let me see, where is that page at? Oh, it's LinMarie Garsee -author, and I'll put that one in the comments as well right now. And I just put that in the comments there. And if you choose to type it out instead, you want to look for this right down here at the bottom. Facebook.com/LinMarie Garsee, and that'll take you to the author page.
Manny, I want to tell you something too. I want to compliment you. You have held a professional attitude through some pretty hot times and some heated discussions in the last few months. And I just want to compliment you on being a professional, keeping your cool, and just doing what your thing and doing who you are.
Well, thank you for that. It's not easy, you know. A lot of times I choose to keep my mouth shut and just back away from all of it. And I know some people take that as a sign of weakness, but I take that as the smartest thing to do is just take a step back and ignore a lot of it.
You have to.
And, yeah,
You
and
know,
it's not easy.
I understand, but you know what? You're above any of the drama. You're way above that. You've got better upbringing and better sass and better class.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's not easy. But you know, doing programs like this is what I want to do. People are interested in what you have to say, and people don't know about you, and I love introducing you to people. And
well, hey,
and
I
hopefully,
appreciate everybody coming on tonight.
yes, everyone who did pop in, thank you so much. Again, on my page, you can get a list of her books, or you can contact her directly. You get a signed copy. That'd be great. Also, check out her page, Quilts for Vets, or her author page, which is LinMarie Garsee -author. And Did we skip anything else that you were involved in? Because you're involved in a bunch of stuff. We got the quilts, the books,
the PI stuff. Hey,
yeah.
I'm just a girl.
Just a girl from Texas.
That's it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to call it a night tonight. Lynn, thank you so much.
Bye,
I
y'all.
hope they catch these people that robbed you. And
well, I'm not going to let them get away with it.
No, you take it all the way as far as you need to.
Oh, trust me.
Yeah,
You
and we're all
signs
rooting
are going to become real buddies.
There you go. We're all rooting for you, and thank you so much for giving us some of your time. I know it's late at night; you got to get up early tomorrow, but appreciate you.
Later, Gator.
Have a good night, Lynn. Alrighty, LinMarie Garsee. Very graceful to join us tonight, and she's got to be up at 4:00 in the morning. So, yeah, it's already about that time to call it a night for her. And I'm going to do the same. Thanks for being here, everyone. If you have any other questions, you can put them in the comments, and I'll be sure that she gets them. Or look her up on any of her pages, which was look her up at LinMarie Garsee, and you'll see all her pages there. But thank you. Hope you enjoyed the program. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you again in the next day or so. Ciao.